Welcome back. So as the war in West Asia shows no signs of ending, European leaders are scrambling to discuss and to take decisions on the impact that this war will have for them, the financial impact. Now, following a meeting between the G7 leaders in Brussels on Monday, a meeting of European Union member states is unfolding in the Belgian capital. From fuel crisis to Russia, there is much for the bloc to discuss. The EU's economy chief, Valdis Dombrovskis, said that the European Union does not support removing sanctions on Russian oil, despite the soaring energy prices. He said that the bloc must continue to, quote-unquote, exert maximum pressure on Russia. The statement comes a day after the G7 nations discussed the possibility of releasing strategic oil reserves. Another key meeting also took place near Paris, where the EU Commission chief Ursula von der Leyen participated in a nuclear summit where she said that turning away from nuclear energy was a quote-unquote a big mistake. The flurry of meetings and summits across Europe has now put the spotlight on the increasing scale of impact from not just one, but two major wars. One in West Asia, another in Ukraine. And on the broadcast, we're joined by Will Denslow, our correspondent from Brussels. Will, this is a critical moment, is it not, for the leaders in Brussels to come to some kind of a conclusion on how they want to take things forward? With the Strait of Hormuz shut, the price of gas is expected to go up further. How are the European leaders looking at the crises in West Asia and in Ukraine to see as to what policy they'll have on sanctioning Russian oil and with Iran?
It certainly is a concern. There are some estimates that if we look at exclusively the German economy, potentially if the conflict in the Middle East and the wider region continues for several months, they estimate that that could impact roughly 1% off of Germany's GDP. That is sending shivers down the spines of many, not just in Berlin, but really across Europe, as Germany is the bloc's biggest economy. So that really is an example of the profound economic impacts that this conflict could have going forward. But we saw on Monday G7 finance ministers taking, for now, somewhat of a wait-and-see approach. That was reflected by Valdis Dombrovskis, the Commissioner for the Economy for the European Union, who said that really the impact economically that the conflict could have will vary dramatically depending on whether this is something that could last for just a few days or even a couple of weeks versus something that could drag on conceivably for a number of months. So that is why we're hearing that wait-and-see type of approach as of now. You mentioned the nuclear rhetoric from Ursula von der Leyen, the Commission President. As you rightly mentioned, she says this is a concern. She says that Europe needs to be a nuclear leader in this technology once again, really striving to make that point that Europe needs to be less dependent for its energy security going forward.
Interesting. Will Denslow, thank you very much for joining us from Brussels and getting us all those updates there.